Jungkook was the kind of man that made mothers proud and fathers beam with approval. At 28, he was already a renowned doctor, respected not only for his surgical skills but for the compassion he showed his patients. With dark, intelligent eyes and a refined air, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who had seen life's cruelties and chose to remain kind despite them. It came as no surprise when his parents, after years of discussions with their closest friends, arranged his marriage with Kim Taehyung, the only son of their longtime companions. The boy had just turned 18, barely stepping into adulthood, still soft around the edges with innocence that hadn't yet been touched by the world. Taehyung had grown up sheltered. His parents were traditional and protective, ensuring he was raised with love but little exposure to topics deemed inappropriate. He was beautiful, like something out of a painting, delicate features, expressive eyes, and a voice soft with hesitation. But he had no real understanding of marriage beyond the ceremonies and formalities. He was told he would marry a good man, a doctor, someone who would take care of him. And so, on a quiet spring afternoon, the wedding took place. The garden was dressed in white silk and petals, and Taehyung stood trembling beside Jungkook, dressed in traditional hanbok, cheeks flushed with nerves. Jungkook noticed the way Taehyung's fingers clenched his sleeve, the subtle way his body leaned slightly away, instinctively guarded. He didn't take it personally. Instead, he offered his husband a gentle smile and kept a polite distance, only touching him when necessary during the ceremonies. That night, when they entered their shared room, Taehyung was quiet, sitting stiffly at the edge of the bed, eyes lowered. Jungkook approached slowly, careful not to startle him. "You don't have to be afraid," he said gently, kneeling in front of him so they were eye level. "I won't touch you unless you want me to. We're married, but that doesn't mean you owe me anything tonight." Taehyung looked up, surprised. His voice was a whisper. "But isn't that what people do on their wedding night?" Jungkook smiled, not patronizing but kind. "Some do, but not all, especially not when one of them is frightened or unsure." Taehyung's shoulders relaxed a little. Jungkook took that as a small victory. "Let's just sleep beside each other tonight. Nothing more," Jungkook said, and helped him change into sleepwear with careful, modest hands. And so their nights began like that, silent at first, then slowly filled with whispered conversations under the covers. Jungkook never pushed, never even brushed his hand against Taehyung's skin unless Taehyung initiated it first. Each day, Jungkook would bring him books, not medical ones, but novels, poetry, and simple relationship guides that gently explained human intimacy and emotions. He encouraged Taehyung to ask questions, and he answered everyone with patience and respect, never once laughing or making him feel ashamed. "You don't have to know everything right away," he told him one night as Taehyung hesitated over a question about physical love. "We have time, all the time in the world." Jungkook cooked for him on weekends, made sure to be home early, and always asked for consent before even holding his hand. He treated Taehyung not as a duty, but as someone precious to him. Eventually, Taehyung began to lean into him more. He would reach for Jungkook's hand at dinner, curl up beside him while reading, and fall asleep with his head on his shoulder. And then, one evening, maybe weeks, maybe months later, Taehyung softly whispered, "Can you kiss me?" It was their first kiss. Jungkook cupped his cheek and leaned in, pressing a feather-like kiss to his lips, so soft and slow it made Taehyung's heart flutter. After that, things progressed naturally. Taehyung, still innocent but now curious and emotionally safe, would ask him what it was like to love someone with your body. Jungkook answered with warmth and never moved faster than Taehyung allowed. It had been over a month since their wedding, and although they shared the same bed and whispered secrets in the dark, there was still a soft, invisible wall between them. One Jungkook never tried to push through. He waited with the patience of a man who loved truly, giving Taehyung space and time. But Taehyung's heart was not without storms. Though Jungkook never once made him feel pressured or unwanted, fear had taken root deep inside him. Not fear of his husband, but of the unknown. Late at night, curiosity led him to look things up. What happens between couples, what being intimate really meant. What he found terrified him. Articles warning of pain, forums filled with discomfort, confusing advice written by strangers. He grew quiet again, distant, and Jungkook, ever gentle, only held him closer at night and never asked for more. But one afternoon, everything shifted. Taehyung had prepared lunch for Jungkook and decided to surprise him at the hospital. The receptionist smiled warmly, recognizing him as Dr. John's husband, and led him toward the private examination area. He waited just outside the half-closed door, not wanting to interrupt, but what he saw made his chest tighten. Inside, Jungkook stood in his white coat, calm and focused as he examined a female patient. His gloved hand rested on her shoulder as he checked her reflexes, but the way she leaned into him was unmistakably flirtatious. Her lips were glossed, blouse slightly undone. She giggled, touching his wrist and pouting. "Oh, doctor, your hands are so warm," she murmured. "I wish all doctors were as handsome as you." Jungkook didn't react, professional and composed as ever, but he didn't pull away either. He continued the examination, unaware of the eyes watching from the hallway. Taehyung turned and walked away before the appointment ended. Back home, the silence was thick. That evening, Jungkook came home to find his husband curled up in their bed, eyes red from crying. He sat on the edge of the mattress, confused and concerned. "Taehyung, what's wrong?" he asked softly. Taehyung looked up, voice trembling. Do you want someone else?" Jungkook's eyes widened. "What? Of course not. Where is this coming from?" "I saw them," Taehyung whispered, "at your hospital. The way they look at you, the way they touch you. I'm your husband, but I still can't. I'm scared to do what married people are supposed to do. What if I never stop being scared? What if you get tired of waiting?" Jungkook's heart ached. He cupped Taehyung's face, thumbs gently wiping away tears. "Taehyung, listen to me. I see hundreds of patients. My hands touch them, yes, but never like that. I don't feel anything for them, not even a flicker. You think I don't notice the way they act? I do. I just don't care. Because you're the only one I see as mine." Taehyung sniffled, curling into his husband's chest, fingers clinging to his shirt. "But I'm still scared. I read things. People said it hurts. That it's hard. I don't want it to hurt. But I don't want to lose you either." Jungkook pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "You will never lose me because of that. I would never ask you to do something you're not ready for. And when the time comes, if you let me, I promise I'll make it as easy and painless as I can. You don't even have to worry about that yet. But please, never think I'd leave you for someone else. You're the only one I want." Taehyung's lip trembled as he leaned forward, pressing a shaky kiss to Jungkook's lips. A kiss filled with longing, confusion, and fear tangled in trust. "I want to try, but I need you to guide me." Jungkook kissed him back, with restraint and reverence, hands cradling his waist as if holding something sacred. Then we'll take it one step at a time, together. And that night, they didn't go further, but Taehyung asked to be held tighter, skin to skin beneath the sheets. Jungkook's warmth a steady reassurance against the whispering fears in his mind. Little by little, the wall began to crumble. The days that followed were quiet but charged. Ever since Taehyung whispered that he was ready to try, a new kind of tension stirred between them. Not of fear, but of anticipation. Still, Jungkook never rushed him. Each night, he let Taehyung come to him, initiating small touches, soft kisses, slowly growing braver. But the fear hadn't disappeared. It clung to the corners of Taehyung's mind like a shadow, whispering worst-case scenarios and flashing back to the terrifying things he'd read online. One evening, curled in bed, Taehyung kissed Jungkook a little deeper than usual, his hands trembling as they slid under Jungkook's shirt. Jungkook pulled back, gently breathing against his lips. "Are you sure?" he whispered. Taehyung nodded, biting his lip. I want to be yours, completely." Jungkook didn't answer with words. He cupped Taehyung's face, kissed him like a prayer, and moved slowly, as if undressing him would shatter glass. Taehyung's breath hitched as Jungkook trailed kisses down his chest, murmuring praises against his skin. But when Jungkook reached for the small bottle of lubricant kept in their bedside drawer, Taehyung froze, tense and wide-eyed. It's going to hurt, right?" he whispered. Jungkook's heart clenched. He placed the bottle down, immediately wrapping his arms around him. "It doesn't have to, and we don't have to do anything tonight. Just let me hold you." That night, they simply lay together, skin to skin, heart to heart. It took 3 more nights of near tries, of Taehyung getting halfway there before tears welled up and he shook his head. Each time, Jungkook would hold him tighter, never angry, never frustrated. Only whispering, "We'll stop here. I've got you." And Taehyung would cry softly into his chest, apologizing through sobs. "I'm sorry I can't give you what you want." Jungkook would hush him gently. "You're all I want. You. Everything else will come when it's meant to." But on the 4th night, something changed. Taehyung climbed onto Jungkook's lap after dinner, kissed him slowly, deeper, his hands no longer shaking. His eyes were glassy with emotion but steady. "Don't stop me this time," he whispered. "Even if I cry, just be slow. Be with me." Jungkook's breath hitched as he cupped the side of Taehyung's face, searching his eyes. "Are you sure?" Taehyung leaned into the touch. "I want you." The room was bathed in the warm glow of lamplight. Jungkook laid Taehyung down gently on the mattress, undressing him with reverent hands, kissing down his chest and whispering comfort as he slicked his fingers. When he slowly began preparing him, Taehyung's breath hitched, eyes squeezing shut. "It's okay," Jungkook whispered, pausing every few seconds. "Tell me if it's too much." Taehyung whimpered, tears forming, but he didn't ask him to stop. "Keep going. Just hold me." Jungkook kissed away every tear, murmuring sweet nothings, taking as much time as needed to stretch and soothe him. By the time he finally slid into Taehyung's trembling body, it wasn't painless. Taehyung cried again, holding Jungkook tightly as he trembled under him. But Jungkook didn't move. He hovered above him, breathing heavy, his own body tight with restraint. "Do you want me to stop?" he asked, voice thick with emotion. Taehyung shook his head through the tears. "No, Just stay, just don't move yet. So Jungkook stayed still, kissing his cheeks, his forehead, whispering, "You're doing so well, baby. I'm so proud of you. You're so beautiful like this." When Taehyung nodded slightly, Jungkook began to move slow. Shallow thrusts, barely there at first. Pain ebbed into warmth, and warmth into something that made Taehyung moan softly, clinging to his husband with flushed cheeks. It was slow. It was tear-streaked. It was raw. But it was also full of love. When they finished, Taehyung lay beneath him, breathing heavily, eyes wet but shining. His thighs trembled, and there was a dull ache in his body, but it was nothing compared to the warmth in his chest. Jungkook cleaned him up like he was made of porcelain, helping him into fresh clothes before wrapping him in blankets and holding him close. "You okay?" Jungkook whispered into his hair. Taehyung nestled closer into his arms. "It hurt, but you made it bearable. You made me feel safe." There was a pause, a heartbeat of silence before he added, voice barely audible, "I'm lucky, so lucky to be yours." Jungkook tightened his arms around him. "No, baby, I'm the lucky one." And for the first time since their wedding, Taehyung fell asleep with a faint, dreamy smile, body sore but heart full, finally understanding what it meant to belong completely to someone who would never hurt him. Taehyung woke the next morning sore, but more at peace than he'd ever felt. The sunlight filtering through their bedroom curtains painted gold streaks across the sheets, and beside him, Jungkook lay shirtless and soft-eyed, watching him like he was the morning itself. "Morning? Beautiful," Jungkook murmured, brushing hair out of Taehyung's eyes and pressing a kiss to his forehead. Taehyung blushed, hiding under the covers. "You're staring." "I'm admiring," Jungkook corrected. "My husband, my everything." For the first time, the word husband made Taehyung smile instead of flinch. He peeked out from under the blanket and gave Jungkook a bold kiss on the cheek. That morning, they shared breakfast hand in hand, and Jungkook had to leave for his hospital shift. But before he stepped out, Taehyung stood on his toes, wrapped his arms around Jungkook's neck, and kissed him deeply. "Come back early," he whispered, lips brushing his. "I always come back to you," Jungkook whispered back, smiling like he'd just been given the world. Later that week, Jungkook invited Taehyung to attend a hospital charity gala with him. It was Taehyung's first public appearance as Dr. John's husband, and he dressed in a sleek black suit Jungkook had tailored just for him, the silk collar brushing his delicate neck. When they entered the ballroom, eyes turned. Most had heard rumors, but seeing Taehyung beside Jungkook was something else entirely. A few people whispered, some with admiration, others with jealousy. And then there were the women, especially nurses and hospital staff, who still hadn't given up their hopeless crushes on the tall, godlike doctor. One nurse in particular, dressed in a shimmering low-cut gown, approached them with a flirtatious smile. "Dr. John," she purred, touching his arm. "You look so handsome tonight. I almost didn't recognize you out of your white coat." Jungkook smiled politely but stepped slightly closer to Taehyung, who remained quiet beside him. The woman's eyes flicked toward Taehyung with a barely concealed smirk. "And this is your brother?" Before Jungkook could respond, Taehyung reached for Jungkook's arm and wrapped both arms around it tightly, pressing close to his side with a cheeky smile. "No, I'm his husband," he said sweetly. "The one he sleeps with, every night." Jungkook nearly choked on his drink. The nurse's expression cracked before she forced a polite laugh and quickly excused herself. Once they were alone again, Jungkook turned to him with amused eyes. That was bold, he said, voice low and warm. Jealous, baby? Taehyung looked up at him innocently, his eyes glinting. No, just making sure everyone knows what's mine. Jungkook leaned in, his voice deep and hot in his ear. You should have waited until we got home to be that sexy. Taehyung's face flushed, but he smirked. Who says I'm done? Back at home, Jungkook wasted no time showing his appreciation. You keep surprising me, Jungkook murmured as he laid Taehyung down on their bed, undoing his bow tie with slow, teasing fingers. 1 minute you're crying under me, scared I'll break you. The next, you're telling people you own me. Because I do, Taehyung whispered, kissing him. And I'm not scared anymore. Not with you. The kisses turned heated, hands exploring, bodies remembering each other in ways that were still new but full of promise. This time, Taehyung didn't cry. He gasped and clung, moaned and moved, eyes filled with pleasure, not fear. And Jungkook, ever gentle but no longer holding back as much, worshipped him like a man starved. Afterward, Taehyung lay against his chest, cheeks still flushed, chest rising and falling. I like jealous you, Jungkook teased, brushing his fingers along his spine. Maybe I'll let more people flirt with me. Taehyung bit his shoulder in retaliation. Don't you dare, he muttered. You're mine, Dr. John. Jungkook laughed, holding him tighter. Yes, husband. Completely yours. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Come back for more. Please subscribe to my channel.